it required some sort of intervention to facilitate some sort of truce or reconciliation. So the Prophet ﷺ left from Medina accompanied by few of his companions, and he arrived in Quba to facilitate some sort of reconciliation or make peace between the people, between different members of the tribe. This is called Islah Bayn al-Nas, causing or facilitating peace or reconciliation between people when two people are at conflict with each other for whatever reason. Many times those reasons could be silly reasons, and a third person's intervention could help facilitate reconciliation between the parties. And sometimes those are legitimate grievances, legitimate reasons that require someone's help to facilitate peace between the parties. So who could be more influential and more listened to and followed than the Prophet ﷺ? So he immediately, as soon as he heard about this, he went to Quba and he talked to the people, the members of the family. And this conversation took a little while longer than expected. So back in Medina, the time of prayer had started. Perhaps it was time for Salatul Asr, and the time had already started. However, the Prophet ﷺ got held up in this conversation, and he did not want to leave without finishing the purpose for which he had come to Quba. So as the time went by, people were already gathered in Masjid al-Nabawi to perform Salatul Asr. However, the Prophet ﷺ was absent. Abu Bakr radiallahu anh was there, Bilal radiallahu anh was there, and many other companions who would come regularly to perform the obligatory prayer in Masjid al-Nabawi, they had already gathered in Masjid al-Nabawi. So as some time went by, Bilal radiallahu anh had already called the adhan at the beginning of the time. So now they had been waiting for the Prophet ﷺ to arrive, but he didn't. So Bilal radiallahu anh went up to Abu Bakr radiallahu anh and he requested him, would it be possible for you to lead the prayer, because the Prophet ﷺ is not coming and we're not supposed to delay the salah any longer. We should start our prayer. So Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, he replied to Bilal radiallahu anh, he said, Na'am in shi'ta. He said, yes, I can lead the prayer if you wish. So Bilal radiallahu anh, he called the iqamah, and Abu Bakr radiallahu anh went on to the musalla of Imam, and he started leading the salah. Now as soon as the salah started, perhaps it was the first rak'ah, and people were standing, the Prophet ﷺ also arrived in the masjid. And as soon as the Prophet ﷺ entered the masjid, people were already engaged in salah. So the Prophet ﷺ pierced through the rows. It wasn't one row or two rows, there were multiple rows in Masjid al-Nabawi. Perhaps it was full. So the Prophet ﷺ pierced through the rows until he arrived in the first row, and he stood right behind the Imam. However, the Prophet ﷺ, as he passed by each row, people who noticed the Prophet ﷺ arriving in the masjid, they started making noise. Not through their mouth, but they started clapping with one hand. So they started going like this, or perhaps on the hand, they started clapping, which is called tasfih in one word in Arabic language, and tasfiq in another word. So people started clapping, and as the Prophet ﷺ arrived in his place behind the Imam in the first row, he started salah as well behind Abu Bakr radiallahu anh. So now the noise started getting louder. So Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, it was not his habit to look left and right in his salah. He would always look down in his salah. But as the noises started getting louder, he realized something is up. So he looked behind. In his salah, he looked behind and he saw the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he wanted to come back. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam signaled him. He beckoned him to stay in his place and carry on with the salah. However, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he slowly started retreating. He started stepping backward, moving backward, and he arrived in the place where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was standing. And then naturally the Prophet ﷺ started moving upward, and he came to his regular spot of Imam, and he continued the salah. When he finished the salah, he turned around and he spoke to the people who were present, and he said, مَا لَكُمْ إِذَا نَابَكُمْ شَيْءٌ فِي صَلَاتِكُمْ أَخَذْتُمْ بِالتَّصْفِيحِ. He said, what happened to you guys? When you saw something happening in the masjid, in your salah, abnormal or something that was unusual, why did you started clapping? You should not have clapped, because إِنَّمَا التَّصْفِيحُ لِلنِّسَاءِ, because clapping is meant to be for women in salah, not outside of salah. So if Imam forgets something, or Imam makes a mistake, Imam forgets to stand up in the first rak'ah or in the third rak'ah, instead he sits down, or instead of getting up in the second rak'ah, he remains seated in qa'dah. So in that case, if there are women behind the Imam, those women should not speak. Instead, they should clap on their thighs or on their hands to signal the Imam that he's making a mistake. إِنَّمَا التَّصْفِيحُ لِلنِّسَاءِ وَالتَّسْبِيحُ لِلرِّجَالِ. And what should the men do? How should men alert the Imam if he makes a mistake? They should say Subhanallah, Subhanallah. So this is where the Prophet ﷺ taught the companions something new perhaps. Perhaps they didn't know this. So the Prophet ﷺ told them that if Imam makes a mistake, which is normal, Imams can make mistakes because Imams are human beings. Imams are not angels, Imams are not prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imams are human beings just like other human beings, and they can forget something, they can make a mistake as well. So if the Imam forgets something or makes a mistake and you want to alert the Imam, if you are a man, then you should say Subhanallah. And if you are a woman praying behind the same imam, then you should clap on your thigh or clap on your hand to let the Imam know that he made a mistake. And then the Prophet ﷺ turned to Abu Bakr radiallahu anh. He said, what happened to you? Despite my beckoning to you, despite my signal to you that you should carry on, you still moved back and you vacated your spot as Imam. So Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, he said, it is not befitting for the son of Abu Quhafa to stand as Imam when the Prophet ﷺ is present in the masjid. I could not do that. It was not in me to continue carry on leading the salah when I learned that the Prophet ﷺ is now standing behind me. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. So inshallah, as